Greetings, Summoners. Cosmic here, and welcome back to another Battle Spirit Saga video. And today we're going to be covering the top 16 from the Ohio Grand Open. And holy cow, did Purple have a monstrous showing at this event. Obviously taking half of the top 16 slots, as well as a ton more Purple decks, at least in top 20 and top 22 from what I was like trying to get from people we were talking about. So top 32 sounds like it was just dominated by Purple. Ultimately, though, the boogeyman of the format, Rex, did end up winning, but overall a pretty good spread of what was able to make top cut. And just as another disclaimer, there's going to be a lot of videos dropping this week. Obviously, I went down as well. Ryan Miles, who I was able to get the list from, he ended up placing 19th based on breakers, but it's a very spicy Maduke deck that I really liked. I'm not sure how it's going to fan out with the zero drops coming at the end of this week. So obviously we're going to talk about EX01 at the end of this week. Shadowverse launch. There's a lot going on. So there is going to be a ton of content dropping this week. So please do look forward to it. So with that out of the way, what do we have? And of course, our champion from none other than True Duelist, Ryan Valentino. We are going to try to get him on the channel later this week and do an interview for the Champions Corner. Of course, just always extending an invite to anyone who wins a Grand Open event. So if you do, feel free to reach out to the channel. But otherwise, we do see a fairly stock Rex list here with a few updates, right? The team had mentioned they were expecting a lot more of Purple coming into the format where Flamefish can really do a lot of work. And also Volcanic Break getting an extra copy to really combat all those. Well, Dual Eagles turned into some delicious KFC, as the commentators kept saying during the event this past, or I should say yesterday's was finals, right? So Ryan Valentino obviously drew like a god, played very, very well, and overall, for like all of rounds considered, went 22-3, dropped 3 games the entire event. So Ryan was on fire, and hey, if there's a deck to do it, it's going to be Gigano Rex, right? We talk about this a lot, but with a 50 card, the clean 50 card list, all that draw power, all that cycling, Red is going to do what Red wants to do at the end of the day, and that is a hallmark sign, or trademark sign, I should say, of what Red does in Battle Spirits in Japan. And I would very much expect to see probably even another draw spell in set 2. Of course, we're kind of getting towards the end of reveal season now for the False Gods set dropping end of next month, but we are still waiting for the magics. We get Yellow Nexus today, then Green Nexus, and then we'll finally round it out with all the magics. So very excited to see, the True Duelist guys continue to be on their rampage. And honestly, I'd love to see more teams enter the format, which is going to get into our second place list. Like, there's a lot of, I think, pocket of friends who have been doing very, very well. But at least for right now, I mean, it's the True Duelist, who is a name that's known in the homes of, of all Battle Spirits players, or getting very close to it at this point, for how many wins that they've had. But I know that there's some other teams out there, so I encourage you, let's have fun with it. If you're going to an event, just get a t-shirt, get some playmats made. I would love to see that team rivalry that we had back in the Force of Will days, and even in Kaijudo days, for crying out loud, right? I love how awesome this community is. And when I went down to Ohio, everyone was super nice. Everyone was super chatty. I think overall, this has got to be the best community that I've been able to be a part of from a card game perspective, given how much money is on the line and how cutthroat you might expect it to be. But everyone's been super nice, and everyone's been super opening and helping out others. So that's awesome to see. But at the same time, I want a little bit of the bantering, right? I want a little bit of that team versus team mentality back, because I think it could be really fun. And obviously in the future, we are going to have 3v3, or hopefully I should say, 3v3 be a thing, and team battles and all that good stuff coming over that they do in Japan Battle Spirits over to Battle Spirits Saga. So I'd really love to see more teams get out there, and I hope that for you and your locals, if you have a team, get some t-shirts made, get some playmats made, let's make it huge and let's celebrate our Grand Opens even bigger. So again, the other thing is we had, I think it was 460 registered, 370, I think is what the final play number was. So as of right now, this was the largest Grand Open, and I would expect to be the largest Grand Open until we get another one in the Midwest. So huge, huge, huge congrats to Ryan Valentino of the True Duelist team. And then I guess the other thing I will mention quickly is just a core drain in the sideboard. But overall, I think the one big takeaway from this was that they wish they played 4 Volcanic Break main even, just for how good it was for the event. Moving on to there, our runner-up, Mr. Ross, and obviously he had the hope and dreams of every yellow player just waiting to see if they could close it out in those very, very impressive 3 games. But ultimately, the 58 card deck probably came back to bite them, and there was just bricks. Unfortunately, there's a part that we talk about a lot when we're playing this version of Yellow Fable Beast. It's like, if you lose your draw engine, and especially if you're up against red, like, yeah, you have to get a little lucky, and they have to misplay, because consistently red will beat you. Out of 100 games, they might win. Maybe it's a 55, maybe it's, closer, but majority of the games, red will win time after time again. So what I had found out, and this goes back to the team comment, this is a very similar list going back to the Vegas launch event. They seem to be a group of friends, but at the time of this recording, I do not know, what if they have a special team or anything like that. We were asking the Discord. So again, going to extend the offer out. If you guys are in the Discord, definitely let us know. I'd love to get some better, note taking on who all the teams are, and really just kind of celebrate, people who come up with these lists and really showcase the different teams and how well they've been doing. Because apparently it's like the True Duelist guys for the Pro Tour so far, this group of players, and there's one other group, I forget who John was telling me, but he was trying to rattle off some of their names. So I'd love to see these all come together for the Pro Tour. So let's make it happen, right? Let's come together as a community and get some team rivalry going. So otherwise, this Fable Beast list is more of what we'd expect from the more controlling variants. Obviously, we've seen Alice in some of these lists. We've seen Elephant for your draw engine. But really, it is just blessed for the early game and then trying to close it out with either an Elephant, which just a 10k refresher over the top is really, really strong. Or sometimes, if you still have the God Beast package in, which this deck does, getting to swing with the God Beast and just chip in with some 2-drops can win you the game that way as well. So overall, I will give a huge props to the Netherworld Depths main. I think that's like the one big difference here between a lot of the other variations that we've seen leading up to this event. But in general, it is a list that, Fable Beast does what Fable Beast be doing or be trying to do, right, since the launch event and trying a bunch of different variations. So fingers crossed the Nexus and the Magics might give us a little bit of a leg up, but I think overall for set 1, and maybe the 0-drops changed this up, but for set 1, I think red and purple are your go-to decks. Moving then into top 8, because as a reminder, this is just a quick showcase of the various archetypes, and the full list will be up on Eggman's website. They're already up there now. Making top 8 with Nemesis, a man after my own heart, is Emil. This one I would love to see. This is closer to, a Yumu from the Germany Grand Open has played this. There's been quite a few other more mid-range types of versions, but really Nemesis getting the value of just being able to, if you want to, sacrifice itself to its own ability, strip 2 cores off something, kill something else, because you only need 3 cores for that level 2 to then get a deadly balance. It is just a very flexible key spirit, right? Or if you're ahead and you have a spirit that you can sacrifice, or maybe, heaven forbid, you get the full combo off, right? Where you can sacrifice Beldegors or 4-drops and then get back to Beldegor. Now you're drawing a card off, or drawing 2 cards, right, off the Rotting Swap combo. Maybe you have a block defensive turn where you're bringing back the Serpents to your hand, right? There's a lot that you can do in this version of the list, and it's just overall, it's a very big brain purple list, and that's why I love it so much, because Nemesis just gives you so much more flex options. Now, yes, it's not as board controlling powerful maybe as the Curse, Dragon, and Bishop control combo that we see in the more traditional purple control list. But for someone who just, if you've seen my video with the Spirit, or if you've seen me talk about it, like, I just truly love the Aristocrat style of deck, which Nemesis, opens up and is getting a lot of support in set 2. So I would very much, if you like Nemesis, take down this deck list, keep a note of it. I think we will be seeing a lot more of this in set 2 once we get the rest of support for it. And really, again, just 4 Rotting Swamp and 4 Depths routing out our Nexus gives you a lot of that card advantage you need to help dig into that Nemesis and keep fighting those spirits so you can sacrifice them and continue to pull ahead. Going into our sideboard options, just more Nexus hate, more hate for Fula, Dream Bomb. A lot of that is pretty standard. And then, of course, the Black Lance as well, which for me and also Miles, because again, we played a very similar list with 2 cards, I think, different between the entire main board and sideboard. Black Lance is just a massive MVP for these Lord of the Ground decks. If you're playing the more control variant, I don't think you can ever afford to play it because it just costs too much for you want to do. Maybe like a 1-2, right? I'm saying not play as a 4-up. And I think in this list too, maybe you could get away with up to 3. But in the list that Ryan put together, I always want to play a 4 of Black Lance. It is just that good. So I am curious now with this in mind, if we are going to see kind of like 3 or 4 different purple decks pop up in set 2 meta, because they will have different packages that can support them. So again, purple midrange, very solid list. This continues to perform well in set 1 meta. We know that there were some other ones in the 32 to top 16 or 32 to 17th placing. So again, purple had a run at this event, but ultimately got knocked down in the top 16 and top 8. But overall, very good showing. Got some money, got that invite. I'm sure they're very happy with it. And purple Nemesis, I just love seeing this list pop up time and time again. So huge shout out to Emil, person after my own heart, and really love the dedication to Nemesis in this regard. Moving on from there to the more control variation that I just mentioned, to Ryan Mateus, who would have like 3 hours of sleep, apparently they were mentioning in the Discord. So huge shout out to the top 8 finish, given how just absolutely exhausted you were, and also having to deal with that heat. Whew. For those who haven't heard about it or didn't know, like, it was the hottest venue that I've ever been to. Just AC broken, fans weren't working, things of that nature. They eventually got it sorted, but it did make for a very rough event. And so much so that I was actually sick all yesterday, just trying to recover. So massive, massive kudos to those who were able to grind it out yesterday, or I should say over the weekend for the event. Moving on to Ryan's list, we have a more stock, purple control variant with your core control removal. You have the Bishop and Cursed Dragon combo for the go wide turns. You have the purple Smoke Valley to try to get you some card advantage off things like the core Drain, the core Theft, the Spider Demon, and Mordred. So really just, a list that we continue to see time and time again from the launch event until now. I expected it could still continue to do very well leading into the, brief EX01 meta that we have. And then, of course, leading into set 2, it's still just a very powerful deck, right? There are a lot of decks that simply cannot deal with the Bishop and Cursed Dragon combo, that if they, overextend into it, this can win you the spot, or win you the game on the spot. So I think that's why we continue to see this list do very, very well, that it does punish players for not having a backup plan or managing their resources effectively, that this combo says, well, we're going to 2 for 6 or something, and then you have to claw back from that. Unfortunately, I could draw 0 Cursed Dragons all weekend, which is why I had a very short run of it, but there's a lot of times where people just don't respect, or maybe they forget to put cores on their spirits, and Cursed Dragon by himself, sometimes just killing 1 or 2 spirits is fine. You don't always have to, have these massive combos. And same thing with Dark Bishop Oculus, right? Sometimes just stripping them down and killing something with Mordred is good enough. So I think for a lot of players, they see a deck list like this and really hyper focus on like what is the biggest, splashiest play you can do, which is Bishop and Cursed Dragon. But do keep in mind that just Cursed Dragon by itself or Bishop by itself can be very viable plays as well. And of course, Beldegor being Beldegor, right? It is a staple across all purple variations. Very good at trying to mow down the Rex list if they can't just beat you out in the advantage. And having extra 4s and 5 drops in this list lets you cycle back more and more Beldegors. So very, very lovely list here. The one thing that we got to give a shout out is to the Flame Emperor in the sideboard, which pops all 4K when summons, which, spoiler, is a very strong card, and it's also a Beldegor target. So huge shout out to Ryan for that surprise tech. I did see a couple more of players over my rounds in the Swiss for Ohio Grand Open this weekend. So I would expect this to be like a 1 to 2 splash as we continue to see more and more and more purple decks pop up. And again, I think as of like today, I would consider playing it just because of how popular purple has been and will continue to be. And then moving into our last archetype, I put Axe Spider. I don't know who to put for this. So shout out to, again, I try to like connect the dots and always make sure we get proper credit and all that stuff. So it goes back to, Cortfish and Eckhard from the launch events, to Jesse Smith winning the online event to now Gary making top 16 of the largest Grand Open with this purple-white control hybrid. Axe Spider just being able to gum up the board. You still have the Bishop and Cursed Dragon combo. You have Enterprise to protect your board if you need it. You have Derm Dyna to, break through those board locks. Like, this deck does it all. And I keep going back and forth, and not only myself, other people. It's like, do we do the all-in version of Axe Spider? Do we do this more purple-white variant? And I got to say, I am definitely more leaning towards this version. I think Peggy, while there are some cases on why you might not want it. I do think I like this version a little bit more with the Swordsman and the Peggy, I think being the two key differences, if I remember correctly, for some of the other versions I was seeing. And, I think it does go the distance and can surprise a lot of players. So if you are looking to build out a 2-color deck, I think Axe Spider, he might have a little bit of time to struggle with green right around the corner and just being perma exhausted, with green in the field. But if you can find those suppressions, if you can find those ice shields, you can eventually run green out of answers. And when you have the 4 elephants on top of this, you just get to ramp 1 billion cores and have 1 billion cards on top of the Netherworld depths as well. So you are constantly refilling your hand as well. So huge shout out to Gary. I think this is one that we're going to continue to see time and time again, as I'd mentioned, and one that I would definitely know to, sleeve up and get ready. I think it's a very solid list and one that we will start to see, leading into, I think the UK is the next one. And then there's, I think, Germany, some other events, or I think it's Australia and UK, excuse me. Some other events that are popping up very, very soon. So if you haven't already, I beg you, please start testing this list. I think it is very spicy and very strongly believe it can either, get top 4 or close out an event. I think it is going to end up being that strong once players get a little bit more reps with it and maybe change around 1 or 2 more cards. So very, very scary deck to play against, as I got to learn firsthand, and just very love to see that list. And with that, we have a full coverage of the top 16 again on Eggman's website. This is just meant to be a quick breakdown and to tell people, hey, full lists are on Eggman's website, so please look forward to it. I'll have a link to that in the comments below in the pinned post. But otherwise, just want to say again, I am very excited to do a ton of content this week. Lots to look forward to. Had a wonderful time meeting everyone down in Ohio that I was able to meet. And of course, we did have the Tulsa and Pennsylvania Grand Opens announced. I will be trying to go to both as well. Kind of depends on how Gen Con and some other events that I can't talk about, but that I'm helping out with go. So there's a lot to do in these next 2 months. So fingers crossed I'll be able to make it and all the finances and all that stuff will align. But, I really just love the game and I love going to these larger events, even if I don't do well in them, just to see the community. And again, this has been one of the best communities that I've been able to be a part of because of how open and just friendly everyone has been. So please keep that love and energy going forward. So with that, my friends, this is the start of a very long week, so I hope you look forward to it and hope your week goes well. But otherwise, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.